Welcome back to the Betterment Experiment, where we run experiments on our lives to help you improve yours. I'm Jake Epstein and have a nasty cold this week.
And I'm Joe LeMay. Thanks for listening. As a reminder, each episode on the Betterment Experiment, we debate 2 life hacks we find on the internet. You vote on which one we implement, and then we report back and share the results on the next episode.
And here we are, sharing some results. So last time we debated 2 extreme eating habits, intermittent fasting versus the keto diet, which was a very colorful episode. You voted, and intermittent fasting won with about 70% of the vote.
Good job, Jake.
We implemented by doing a variety of different fasts over a 7-day period, really 8 days, I suppose, at this point. I did a 16-8 fast, 3 16-8s. It's not eating for 16 hours, eating for 8, 3 18-6s, and then 1 24-hour fast this past Sunday. And so that was good. It was like, they say Christmas in July. It was like Yom Kippur in December.
I spread mine out a little bit, and I also had 1 fail day during it. So I did I did 3 16-8 fasts. For the audience who don't know what that means, that's 16 hours of fasting, 8-hour window when you can eat. All of these add up to 24, right? I also did 3 18-6s. I also did 2 20-4s. I also had 1 day in there where I just totally whiffed it. So we'll talk about that.
Was it the day?
And then I wrapped up with a 24-hour fast.
Yeah.
That ended at 5 p.m. last night.
I think I know the day that you whiffed it, and we're going to come back to that.
Yeah, you might have noticed. But I might have been a little slow that morning.
Yeah, where there's going to be a section on fasting with a hangover. But the long fast, even the 18-6s, the 24s, where you only eat for just like a few hours during the day. Once you get going, it's easier than it sounds, right?
I would say that every time I increased the fasting window, that first time I did it was hard. All right, it's like I really had to. But after I did it a couple times, it got like I'm like, what was so hard yesterday? It actually became pretty easy. So by the time I did the 24-hour fast, I had ramped my way up to it, and that was relatively doable. If I had started with a 24-hour fast, I think I would have jumped into a day of misery. But having ramped up to this, I gotta say it was like the best way to go. And at first, the 16-8 ones, like you're basically just skipping breakfast and having lunch a little later.
It's super easy. Yeah,
so doable.
Yeah.
So doable. Yep.
That whole breakfast is the most important meal of the day that's BS.
Yeah,
right.
Totally. And because I did find that, especially after I got past the first day, when I'm doing 16-8s. I'm more focused. I'm more level-headed. I have more time because I didn't have to worry about grabbing breakfast. Just by the way, I'm having black coffee and water, and that still counts as 0 calories for the purpose of this type of intermittent fast.
So I'm actually big on green tea. So I do obviously water and black coffee in the morning.
Why that?
Too. I think that it's an appetite suppressant.
I think so.
Yeah, it really helps me. It's like it's something that you're doing too. So if you do get hungry, you start sipping on some green tea. It's like magic, man. You just forget about it.
It's like L-theanine or something's in it.
Yeah. And hey, maybe it's the herb, or maybe it's just that you're putting something in your body that has like a taste besides coffee or water.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I gotta say, I did drink a lot of coffee just to kind of keep myself busy.
Yeah, green tea is a nice alternative.
I got a little jittery at times. So
yeah. How'd you feel otherwise during the week? Did you get weak at all?
Yeah, I would say there were a couple times I got kind of lightheaded. There was one day, man, where I did a 20-4 intermittent fast, and when I broke the fast, all I had was like super low carb veggies like lettuce and zucchini, and I climbed about 120 flights of stairs while listening to my favorite podcasts.
Were you at a prison camp?
No, I do that here sometimes, and I swear I lost like 3 pounds that day.
That's good,
but I did get kind of weak in the knees toward the end of the day. It was a little bit much.
Yeah, and so I mean, I guess I still get weak sometimes in the afternoon, which is why I recommend if you're going to work out in the morning, because you have a little bit more energy in the morning. As the day goes on, even though maybe mental energy doesn't wane for me quite at least as much, you do start to feel it physically. Obviously, at some point, you just aren't getting those normal calories in your bloodstream, and so you have a history with fasting, and so I knew it was a great way to lose weight, or really control your weight, I should say, as well as lose it. There's health benefits benefits that we discussed on the last episode, giving your organs a rest.
On the weight loss thing, man, you got to control yourself. I found like the first time I did my 20-4, I broke the fast with like a ribeye and wine and creme brulee.
Yeah, you can't do that.
And I did not lose weight that day.
You just got to eat sensibly.
Yeah,
a ribeye. It's ridiculous.
No, but that's the other point. To make sure here's a tip: make sure that you have good stuff to break your fast with. If you break your fast, there was one day I broke it. My kids had pizza lying around right around the time and I had some of that, and my pancreas had this like time off in the morning, and then bam, I hit it, and then I got this insulin rush and needed a nap.
I honestly think that's got to be bad for your organs if you break a fast with something like, I mean, pizza maybe, but it's like that's close to breaking it with a Kit Kat, you know? You can't just like shove that much sugar in your body.
Oh, and I needed a nap. Like, yeah,
exactly.
Bad things were happening in my GI tract, I gotta say.
Yeah. And so, beyond all those benefits, over the course of the week, I was trying to figure out how to describe like the clean feeling that you have.
Yeah.
So part of it, I think, comes from there's like less things to worry about. Like you don't have to worry about having breakfast or lunch most days. It's just, and like you think about food. So part of it is just your mind is thinking about less things. But there's a little bit more to it than that, and I don't really know how to put my finger on it unless you unless you experience it.
Yeah, there's something about it, and I think maybe it is because you have no insulin in you, or maybe you go into this light stage of ketosis or whatever it is. I'm no doctor, but there's something that I got to a point where even when I was hungry, I was able to focus more, and I just felt like I had a clear that foggy head syndrome.
Yeah.
Like almost never happened when I was doing intermittent fasting. I've heard people when they get into the 48 hours, of course, then they start to get headaches and different things can start to happen to you. But this intermittent fasting is like, I found it so doable. I'm really gonna incorporate it in my life moving forward. I know I am, because it pairs super well with keto, which I've had good results with, and it makes like the ketogenic diet seems to make the fasting easier. And so they work well together.
That's interesting. That's a good tip. I guess I could give it a shot. It's hard though. There's a lot. We'll get back to keto in another episode. We'll do our Tournament of Champions with the keto diet.
Yeah. We'll have to come back to that.
Did you ever? You know what I was thinking about a little bit this past week? How all the major religions have fasts in them, right? And so I think there's something to that, just like the awareness it brings to it.
Yeah.
Right. And I still don't really know how to describe it, but there's a reason that pretty much every religion has like a fast involved, and it forces you to be aware of yourself and aware of the things around you.
I would say we've done a lot of habit-changing life hacks, right? We did Inbox Zero. We took apps off of our phone and dealt with that for days at a time. This was the one habit change that I felt like it ran primal. Like I went to a point where I didn't know I could do it so well. I was kind of freaking out at the idea of having to not eat for a whole day. But coming out of it, like I feel stronger about my ability to control my habits and my own willpower in every direction, because I was able to control my appetite, which just has this primal core feeling to me being a mammal. If I can do this, I can do anything.
Yeah, and I mean, unlike a lot of the other hacks that we've tried, the best part is that you just do nothing.
Yeah,
right. It's similar to meditation, but even easier because you just don't eat.
The simplicity is a benefit.
Just don't eat.
Which our chief simplicity officer, Jake Epstein, is always a proponent of the.
I love it, and
less.
so and that leads me to I really, for any of our listeners, I highly recommend that you try it, unless you have a medical issue like diabetes or things like that can interfere with it, obviously. But it's just so simple to try because you just don't eat, and if that sounds scary to you because you're like, oh man, I love my breakfast, give it a shot. Give it a few days.
Yeah, you'll be surprised, and you'll learn a little bit about yourself if you've never done it before.
Yep. And green tea if you get a little bit hungry.
You
got any parting recommendations?
I do. I really like this app for measuring and tracking your fasts. It's called the Zero app. It's made by Kevin Rose, and it's not like you can't use a calendar to to measure your fast. But
is this the thing I saw you post on Instagram?
Yeah.
I was
took a
wondering
screenshot
what
and
that
posted
was.
it on Instagram.
Yeah.
At LeMay Joe on Instagram.
Good
Join
point.
my 100 followers.
Lots of content.
Yeah, lots of content. But it was like fun to use, and it like made like each day like I could track it. It showed me this nice little visual of where I was in my fast.
And so you press it when you start your fast, so it helps you like plan your fast out, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
When you start, you press it. When you end, you press it. It's showing you, and you say, "I'm trying for a 16:8." So it's kind of giving you encouragement. Of course, you can change the times if you've forgotten, etc. You can work with it, and it's just like cool. At the end, it like congratulates you. You look back at the week, and you're like, "Oh, I did all these fasts," and it shows you. It also has like some good content for tips and tricks and what to do, etc. So it's really well done, and I found it made the experience a little bit more pleasurable. So the Zero app, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I meant to ask you about that.
And that's about all I got.
You have to walk us through intermittent fasting with a hangover.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm not the best person to walk you through how to do intermittent fasting with a terrible hangover because I was out till like 2 a.m. on a Thursday night. Woke up and I just ate everything in sight. I don't know. I just couldn't do it.
I think it just needs to be your cheat day.
Yeah, that I just chalked it up to. Well, once I knew I was trying for an 18-hour fast, and I knew just that was going to be just so hard, and I was going to suffer. I gave up, put my hands in the air, and just started eating croissants.
All right. Well, there you go. That's how to intermittent fast with a hangover. Why don't we move on to this week's email submission?
All right, go for it.
All right, we got an email from Tracy this week. Tracy wrote, "Hi, Joe and Jake." Usually we say Jake and Joe, Tracy. Just a note. I'm just Jake goes from, but I'll read it verbatim. Hi, Joe and Jake. Your meditation episode, you both said you planned to keep meditating after the experiment was over. I wanted to know if you kept it up. Thanks for the podcast. I've been loving it all the way from Michigan.
I haven't been doing it super rigorously, not on a schedule. I definitely found that the practice of doing meditation when I have insomnia, which happens once in a while for me, I know it happens a lot for you, has been helpful. Yeah, I've been doing it sporadically, but not on a schedule. I just find like with this podcast, we're always implementing a new life hack. Sometimes I just drop one just so I can focus on one thing at a time. But it's still sort of part of me.
Yeah, similar for me, Tracy. I definitely have built it into to my, I would say, my weekly routine. I definitely meditate several times a week, but not on any fixed times. It's been a little bit too much, but still highly recommend.
So you're still a fan? You're into it now?
Still, big fan.
Let's just take a moment to pause. We turned you around because you were like, "No way, I can't do it, not me."
Yeah,
right? And now different.
But yes, I'm a new man. So tune in after the break, and you'll hear just how new of a man I am when I'm pitching Joe gratitude journals. What? Spoiler!
Welcome back from the break, and let's get into this episode's debate. Today, we're talking about exercises that are going to change your mindset. 2 exercises that can just change your whole brain and make you think in a different way. So let's get into it.
Yeah, I'm gonna blow your mind a little bit this week. I don't know if it's the cold medicine or my newfound love of meditation.
Oh, you're so zen.
Episode 4 of the Betterment experiment. Gratitude journals. You know much about gratitude journaling?
I've seen them on Instagram.
It's like a thing. It's like a whole internet thing. I didn't really know too much about it. Looked into it. Haven't really tried it yet, but I want to use this podcast for both you and I to get into gratitude journaling. Here's how it works. Every night, shortly before bed or like at bedtime, you write down 5 to 10 things that you're grateful for each day. And they can be anything positive. So it can be big things like I'm thankful for my family, or it can be small things like I'm thankful they just put a Starbucks in next door, which I really am quite thankful for. Whatever it is. And so the idea is that it forces you to review your day and internalize what you want more of in your life, right? Okay. And so at the same time, it lowers your stress level and should calm you down before you go to sleep. But then the next day, you're more focused on things that really matter. And the idea is that this slowly builds up a subconscious sense of gratitude and optimism over time.
And this will definitely help your just day-to-day experience? How will it help? Our audience kind of likes performance, stuff like that. How will it actually help you perform better as well?
I think that from a performance standpoint, I think successful people are generally more optimistic.
All right.
And so I will tie it into that and say that this is a way to build up gratitude and optimism in your life. And so that will make you more successful.
Can we take a minute to appreciate that just a couple episodes when Jake was saying, I can't meditate, and we're like Vikings, and we're nuts, and we're charging up hills, and like just how you've changed so much. You're a new man.
That episode transformed me from a Viking to a samurai. So I have total control now.
You're such a warrior.
I know.
I love it. All right. I like it. Actually,
yours?
I don't have many arguments against it. I just think mine's better.
Okay. Well, let me hear it.
So,
I'll be the judge of that.
I think our audience will, actually.
Okay.
So here's the idea. Writing down, also in a journal or notepad or a Rocketbook, 10 ideas a day. Okay? So you go through the exercise every day. For an entrepreneur, you should choose 10 new startup ideas, right? For a content creator, might be doing 10 new ideas for content. But you write down 10 ideas a day. You do this every day. You're going to get through the first 5. It's going to be kind of easy. And then when you get to number 6, 7, 8, that's when it's going to get really hard. 8, 9, 10, it's going to be really hard. And what you're doing is you're really flexing and exercising your creativity muscle. And after, let's say we do this for 7 to 10 days, we're going to have a noticeable change in our volume of ideas that are coming out of our brains. We're going to be turned into what James Altucher calls an idea generating machine. And I got to give credit to him. This is where I heard it from, James Altucher.
Okay, so every day, at some point during the day, you just write
morning,
but you sit down and you crank out 10 ideas like in a session. It's not like you come up with them over the course of the day.
No, you sit down for a dedicated session. That's actually important.
And we would do like startup business ideas. So it'd be like hot dogs delivered by drone or something like that.
For us, let's make it flexible. New business ideas, and then maybe another day we talk about new ways to grow Rocketbook or new features in our app or new product ideas, right? But the idea doesn't really matter is to turn it into exercise to flex that creativity muscle. I'll tell you why I'm a believer in this. There was a time when my kids were having trouble falling asleep at night, so I started saying, hey, let's meet each other in our dreams. I'll meet you on the other side of the moon, make up crazy scenarios, etc. And then I had them take turns talking about what we do in our dreams. And we just did this to calm them down at night. But we kept doing it. And after about 20 days of doing this, two of their teachers got in touch with Mimi, my wife, and were like, your kid has amazing stories.
Because you train them to be more creative, essentially. Yeah,
the exercise. And I actually found that doing this story time, it actually became tricky and hard, like thinking of new things.
I can see how it is a skill, and I want to come back to just to clarify a couple of things. Will we share our ideas with each other?
We'll share quite a bit of them. However, here's the thing with idea generation. You don't want to apply a filter. You just want to let the ideas flow. So don't be self-conscious of, I got to share this with someone because it's going to block your exercise.
I got it.
Share the ones, we can share some cool ideas on the podcast, but don't let the bad ideas come out. Let the shareable ideas come out. Let the terrible, embarrassing ideas come out as well.
Okay, so on that same note, when we're gratitude journaling, I just want you to know that I will not ask to read your gratitude journal. And you can write down anything you're grateful for, even if it's embarrassing. Okay?
Likewise here, you can write down anything, but you might want to share some of it for our audience, but you don't have to.
Yeah. Listen, I mean, this is an interesting episode. I'd love to imply that you're going to be arrested for your idea, as I did last episode. I do see the value in what you're doing, and I mean here and just in general, we try to become superhuman. And I think this week you're focusing more on the super, and I'm focusing more on the human, Joe. I want to be more human this week, and in that, I want to just take the time to. Because after we generate 10 ideas and we come up with another, big startup and, we rule the world, I mean, what's it all worth if you don't take the time to, kick back and understand, what you're grateful for?
That's beautiful, Jake, and I appreciate and I'm grateful for you. But you know what else I'm grateful for? I'm grateful for the reality that we live in a land of opportunity, and all you have to do is generate a ton of ideas, test to see which ones can actually be viable, and then execute on them. And then you can make a great living, have an amazing team, an amazing product like we've done, right?
Yep.
And then you can, if you don't do that, then you're leaving behind the biggest opportunity of a lifetime. And I think this generating ideas is just like the very first thing in that our audience can appreciate and see themselves using to become super successful.
All right, I got it. So Joe is proposing a productivity hack, I suppose.
Productivity and creativity, and just stuff that'll help you build an amazing life.
And I am proposing something that makes you appreciative of all the productivity that you have increased over.
That's right. And maybe in your case, maybe help you experience a better life. In your case, right?
Yes. All right. So Joe is pitching 10 ideas a day. I am pitching the gratitude journal. Both ideas change your brains to be either idea machines or more grateful.
I like it. But it's not up to us, it's up to our audience. So head over to podcast.getrocketbook.com, cast your vote, and pick which extreme method of how we're going to reprogram our mindset, and we'll implement it. We'll implement the winner, and then we'll come back on our next episode and we'll share the results.
But for now, thanks for listening to this episode of the Betterment Experiment.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Betterment Experiment with Joe and Jake, the co-founders of Rocketbook. Head over to podcast.getrocketbook.com and cast your vote to help us decide which experiment we'll test out and tell you all about in the next episode. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. It's a great way to support the podcast, and we really do appreciate it. Email us your comments, questions, and experiment suggestions to podcast@getrocketbook.com. And please follow us on social media on Instagram and Twitter @GetRocketbook, on Facebook.com/GetRocketbook, and on YouTube.com/Rocketbook. Thanks again for listening, and tune in next time to better yourself.